What's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler, episode number 366, Dealing with Technical Debt. This episode is brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Go check them out at serverpress.com. And our new show, The Query. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/The Query. Our host, Jason Cosper, is going to be answering your questions.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog.
I'm Steve Zango. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media on all the things.
My name is Russell Aaron. I do things with WordPress in Las Vegas.
It's Jason Cosper, aka Fat Momoweg.
Help us out over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. And if you like, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell if you're watching us on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Hey, what's up, everyone? How are you doing today?
Hi.
What up?
Many questions.
What up? I have so many queries right now.
I am so not into finding out information during the introduction of the show. Like, what is happening? Whatever.
Oh, it's fun stuff. We always have something going on, and
starting a new thing that never happens.
I know, right?
Two in 1 year, by the way.
I know, that's just crazy? Yeah, but Cosper's gonna be starting a new show. He's gonna be doing a question and answer show for WordPress stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and ask me anything for WordPress.
A weekly Ask Me Anything. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's gonna be good stuff.
Are you gonna do that close up?
Just let me know when you want to start something. Say we'll make it happen.
Oh, I did 8 years ago. You're still here.
She's like, you're on it, by the way. You're on it.
Yeah, we're doing it. It's happening.
Yeah,
as long as you do that close crop up thing, Cosper, you're good. If you're listening to this on iTunes, one, I apologize, but two, you should really look at the video because this close crop on Cosper is cute. Close crop on Cosper.
It's so crazy.
Say that 10 times fast.
Oh man! So hey, today we're gonna be talking about technical debt. And so, what the heck is technical debt? I would define technical debt as the crap that you take with you when you go from one project to another, or somebody else's debt that you're now having to deal with. That somebody made some decisions. It's up on their website, and now you're having to deal with those decisions that were made. They're using I don't know, that they're using some weird page builder that you now have to kind of work your way out of, or they're using a Divi.
Oh, not Divi. Divi's actually really great.
But yeah, they're using something that
Let's not get into that conversation right now. We can have a whole down.
But yeah, they're using something that you're not familiar with, and now you're having to kind of manage it, or those decisions that were made are now things that you just have to kind of live with and kind of work through. So yeah,
all my debt is inherited. All my technical debt is inherited debt, because this is such a big thing that I do, which is rebuild sites that have been built that already exist. This is a big part of. Apparently, it's like my niche now. People are like, "Wow, we have this big site that's really effed up. Can you rebuild this because it's terrible?"
That's something that you deal with in support as well, like when you're sitting there and somebody writes in and says, hey, my site's down, and you find out it's this old version of this plugin, or it's a conflict, whatever. It's like, hey, you've had this plugin for a long time. This is causing you issues. Like, that's that old debt that is sitting behind, and whether you haven't updated it for whatever reason, like, it's causing problems now. Your ripples are starting to white cap as this happens, and that's what I always think of technical debt as, is it's costing you by not keeping up with the Joneses. Update the PHP 7.4. Do it. Call Cosper. He's got a weekly show. Cosper, if I call into your show, will you update PHP for me?
I'll help you out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's technical debt.
It's basically like when you haven't dealt with your emotional problems from your childhood. and you're
Right.
carrying those on into your daily life, and you're like, wow, now I can't have a relationship, or wow, now I've lost all my friends. What happened there? It's like that.
My
Except for your website, and it's
my
up for-
therapist and I talked about Contact Form 7 a lot. Like, you know, we go through it a lot. You know, that one scarred me for life. All right. Yeah.
That is actually the new show. He's like a WordPress therapy.
Oh, dude, I would love
That's
to have
the show I want.
WordPress mommy
therapy.
issues. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Chris, you and I
say,
could do that. We could be like the parents of WordPress.
WordPress parents. I love it.
say, can you walk us through the part where you're doing your discovery to figure out, like, you know, you're inheriting this new website, you have a new customer, they come in and they're like, here's my website, here's all the credentials, log in, start looking at it. You're trying to figure out, you know, you're doing your discovery work on that site that you're going to be, you know, helping them with. What do you do? What do you do?
First of all, I charge for that. So that first part of the conversation, which is mandatory because I won't move on to the next part until that part's done. Everyone's like, can you fix my website? And how much is it going to be? And I'm like, I can absolutely fix your website. I don't know how much it's going to be because I don't know how messed up it is yet. But I always, I can, you know, you can do a cursory look at the site and be like, oh, I recognize some of this stuff. I can tell where it's messed up on the front end, and maybe, you know, run a couple built widths to see what it's got going on the back end. But you can't really get the information that you need about understanding what you're working with until you get into the actual admin.
And that's why I think weekly, daily, monthly, some kind of auditing is something that you should be doing constantly. So when they come to you, they should be like, here, Say told me this is the current status and this is what it was like a week ago. You know what I mean? Like, you should always be on top of what your website's doing.
Well, I mean, at the very least, what would be great is if developers or assemblers or people who make sites for people would, like, I don't know, write a list of plugins that they have. That's crazy. But, like, people have no idea what plugins they're using. They don't know, like, okay, maybe they don't know what themes they're using because they don't understand that component, but there should be a list somewhere of the assets that are going into a website. It blows my mind constantly.
Or how they help your site. Like, hey, we installed this plugin for a reason, and here's how it works.
A dedicated list would be like, I mean, that's what I do for my clients. Yeah. Actually, I've got a list of the plugins, a list of what the plugin does, and a list of basically not the actual credentials, because I'm not keeping that in there, but what email that account is tied to, so that when they're like, I can't find my account, it's like, it's in your list. Go look at it, and then you can do a password reset if you can't figure out your password. That's the bare minimum, and then you could pass that on to developers, and there would be a lot less discovery involved in that.
Yeah.
But literally, I've never ever seen that. The closest I got with one of the clients that I'm working with right now is they're like, here's all the stuff we got from our developer, and they were so excited to send it to me. And it was just like here's how to make a post in WordPress. And I was like, this is not what that is. This is not.
I have seen what you're describing, and the only way that I have seen a client coming to us with that audited stuff is because that's how WebDev did it. It came into a project, like they were going to build this thing, so WDS went through and they did an entire. I'm going to let Cosper talk more on the server side of things, but you know, from like an agency, we're looking at what does the site do. What is the expected outcome of this site? And then, you know, what's happening? What are we trying to fix? And if you know those three things, then you can start assessing what is technical debt and what is not. What is the current status of your site? And if you're getting this error, we have to address that. But is that error causing the project an issue, or is it causing the overall website an issue? So determining that I call that an audit. And that is something that even if you are just a person who makes pizzas and you have a WordPress website and have somebody like Say working with you, you should be asking, can I get an audit? Do I know what this is? And, you know, it's a monthly fee that you might have to pay or something, but at least you currently know the status. And it's not like, catch me up in 6 months because now the site's down and you have to make this technical decision for us spending money, but you don't know what to do. You know, like
I don't think you would necessarily need if like to me it's more of like that would be a change. You would need a change log, right? Like so you'd have an initial list of the stuff you've got going on, and then as that changes, you'd be like, oh, we changed this plugin for this plugin, or we switched this out for that. So it shouldn't even be like you need to do an audit, because you should be logging the changes that you're making to the site. So it should always
Agreed.
It shouldn't just be like, oh, well, in the past month we changed these things. Like, you know, so I'm not super like the idea of the audit to me doesn't make as much sense as a change log and just a constant.
Okay.
This was what's been updated on the site. And so it should always be kind of a current status of what's going on the site, not the content, obviously.
I'm going to back it up like our friend Stevie would do. And I'd say as a beginner and you don't know WordPress, you're not a coder, you're not a developer, I'm saying you should have some kind of knowledge of what your site just is and does, and you can make more technical decisions that way. And that's what I was getting at. Maybe a monthly audit is a little too much, but you know, as code changes and new plugins are introduced or new functionality to the website, that's all stuff that needs to be updated, and you might have to do a new audit just by adding a WooCommerce wish list. Like it might change the whole functionality of how your site works.
What I think you should audit actually is the content, because as you turn over the site to the client, and over the past month, the client has been using the site, the audit would be like, hey, look, you added 3 new banner images that have not been optimized and are now the size of posters on your main page.
Is that technical debt?
I actually think that, is that content debt? I would consider it technical debt because it's affecting the performance of the site. So
how say you, Cosper?
I like your face expressions. This is so great.
I'm just nodding along and waiting for my chance to dive right in.
Go now.
Yeah. Okay. So when I set up,
just kidding.
Say's
on one end of the street, I'm on the other end. We have the slow stop signs going, so traffic's flowing. Go.
All right. So I'd like to say that when I set up my computer, I know that, I mean, we've established over the 100 some odd episodes I've been on that my brain works a little differently. I actually keep a changelog of everything I install on my computer. So if I put a new app, a new browser, something like that, and I do the exact same thing with my WordPress sites. And again, why did I put this plugin here? Why? I actually, and it's something maybe someone out there, because I really don't have the time for it right now, can do it. But I would love it if there would be like in the plugins area, a plugin that says, okay, here's the date this plugin was activated. Like actually, here is the activation date, and then also give you a chance to leave notes on your plugins, on your theme, stuff like that.
Maintain Tool kind of does that. Maintain Tools is a plugin that does that, and you can leave notes, but go on.
Yeah, so having those notes, is Maintain Tool free to everyone, or is it just for Maintain customers?
No, okay. It's on the repo. I'm going to link it to Jason.
Okay, great.
So the activity feed kind of like would be that, except for it logs literally like everything, so it becomes totally useless. It's like someone changed a comma, therefore it's in your activity log. So your activity log is like, 10 million pages long, and so you can't really use that to go in and be like, who installed this plugin and when, because there's no way to sort that data. There's no way to, it's just a big fire hose of anything that changed on the site.
I think that's a good episode, is like, what would you like to see the plugin dashboard redesigned as? Because there's I would like to actually see how many Pippin plugins somebody has, or how many WooCommerce things are there. Like I'd like to be able to sort them by developer and stuff. But Cosper, like you were saying, I leave notes on things all the time, and that was a problem. That was an itch I was trying to scratch, which was leaving notes for plugins like, don't update this because if you do, it breaks and Katie gets mad, or she turns into Karen, whatever, like something. And so I had to do this get on the show, go to Valley West, go to WDS just to get that into a plugin. But I got it done.
Yeah, it's kind of like a life cycle diary or life cycle.
It's a change log.
Yeah, change log.
It's all it is. Like that's.
But
that's
it needs to automatically happen. That's the thing. It needs to automatically happen, and then when it changes, I don't know if you guys have seen. I mean, most of you have used WP Engine before, but when you go to update your plugins, when you go to update your plugins, it always asks you like, have you made a backup?
Or would you like to? Yeah.
So like there's hooks all over WordPress that should be like writing back into this changelog that we're now generating that would make it so that you can just go back down the list and go like, oh, here's what's going on. But I think when you install a plugin, I think that's where it should be asking you like, why are you installing this plugin? So future Jason can go back and look at what past Jason did and go like, he installed this thing and then he abandoned it and never actually used it.
I have such a better reason than that. And I would like to look at it and I would like to see, all right, and I say might agree with me on this. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. So this client has a tendency, I would like to see that they don't update plugins other than every 6 months. This is a person that doesn't care about this site. And so they're going to do something, whatever, like I'm going to have to handhold them. And if there was a log that showed me, like, this is why Managed WP is great. It shows me the update history and when plugins get touched and when they're added. It gives me a better understanding of my client and what they do with their site and some insight into why it might be broken in the first place. And rant.
Was managed.
Managed WP does that. Managed WP keeps a track and it says like on this date we updated from here to here, and then it gives you a link and it says like here's the change log, so it pulls that in unless it's like a paid plugin. But like I working with Maintain here, like I've been able to see that people coming to us, I can't tell if they just updated ACF yesterday or if it was that way for 6 months ago. So if you have an active thing, it would tell me, hey, the client told me they updated ACF, but they did it yesterday, not when it came out. And you know what I mean? Like it would give me that tip.
Yeah.
So basically what we're talking about here is we want
technical debt.
Well, no, but we want to understand every site has technical debt. Every site has, unless it's fresh and new, which is why I love building sites from scratch. Like I'm like, we're scrapping this site and we're just going to build it fresh and clean. But every site that just gets, if you're bringing over content, if you're just rebuilding it, if you're putting in a new theme or fixing it, it has technical debt. And so technical debt is not necessarily in and of itself a bad thing, because it is, I mean, it sounds bad, right? Because debt sounds bad, but it's just basically stuff that is making up the site and the idiosyncrasies of that particular combination. There's so many different ways to build a site, you know, and so many combinations that like each site is going to come with a unique combination of those things. And so that in and of itself is the different technical debt situation for each site. I just think it has such a negative connotation of being bad. Like I have this technical debt of this outdated plugin or this bad thing, but really technical debt is just the story, the technical story of that website.
It's the check register. You know, if you ever used a check, I haven't used a check in years, but a check register would show you like the things that you've spent in the past. The problem with the check register is it only shows you the things that you spent with a check. So like this thing needs to be a thing that does all of it and be able to look at it. So really you're paying yourself forward or paying the next developer forward if you were to have some kind of activity log type plugin, and we'll go through a couple of them and put them in the show notes so you can take a look at it. But that might help the person at least give the story as to what's going on. Cosper, what do you got? What do you think?
I was going to say now activity log plugins are all well and good. I know that there are a number of them out there. My biggest issue with those is they all write to the WordPress database. Some write as a custom post type and just use the post table, which sucks for performance. The second you actually have to fight with your logging setup to all of a sudden, like, pull your posts out of the database, but you have to look past all this logging data that you're using.
Right.
Not great, Bob. I would also say that one big thing that I have kind of noticed is we're talking a lot about the technical debt that exists on a site that you can see, but there's a lot of technical debt on the site that you can't see. Say, I've seen customers use, and I don't want to name and shame, but I'm going to name at least. No shame, but there is a plugin. Yeah, there's a plugin for WooCommerce, Meteoric, which gives you a lot of great data on your WooCommerce site, and it doesn't.
Mediocre? Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't really clear out the database tables all that well once you're done with it. So I had a customer who was running Meteoric on their
upon uninstall. Is that what you're saying? It doesn't clean up after itself?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so there were still Meteoric like tables in post meta and stuff like that on a fairly high traffic site.
Wow.
And in a lot of cases, I think the problem was, and it does maybe clean itself up on a smaller, lower traffic site, but once you start getting into these high performing sites, you end up running into issues where it's like, oh, this query took too long. So PHP killed that while we were in the uninstall process, and tough luck.
Yeah.
So you're saying the data is meteoric, is what you're saying.
Ha.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
That was my pun. It was that pun already. It's a premium pun.
It's a premium plug, exactly.
I would even extend all of this to the server level too. If you're not running the latest version of recommended software, like, you could be doing yourself harm. Some plugins will throw an error if you're not running a minimum requirement, and that might have probably been the best plugin for the customer to use, but because they got an error, they went and bought this other one. And like, even just simple things like that. It's like Cosper was saying, you don't see it, but it's there,
Well, and then there's the cost of the opportunity debt, right? So as soon as you make a choice to go with a specific plugin and not the other plugin, and then if that plugin stalls out or doesn't pan out, and then the other plugin, starts to develop and have more of the solutions that you want, you could have one plugin that has to have all these add-ons and all these fixes, and then the other plugin does that stuff, but you didn't know that back then when you installed that. I just responded to a tweet that someone was saying, how often is it that you get halfway through a project and you want to rebuild and restart the whole thing because you figured out?
That's a good question.
All the time.
Literally, it's half of why none of my personal projects get done, because I get halfway through and I'm like, oh wait, this is a better way to build it, and I just start over. And
it's more than 15%. Let's say that.
Yeah, it's a bad percentage. But that's part of it too, because when you inherit these bad sites without all those notes, I feel guilty sometimes because of how bad I think of the previous developers. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we spent that whole episode the other week of me bashing that one. They really did suck. They really do suck. That doesn't count. I don't.
Was that the ones from the OC?
Yeah, I don't feel bad about that at all. You don't put the whole damn thing in the functions file, you have a problem.
Yeah.
But, they made a choice, and there was probably a reason that they made that choice. But without any context whatsoever, it's just look, someone spent $500 or $5,000 on a thing, and no one knows why. They bought this car that turned out to be a lemon, and you're like, well, that was a stupid choice. But you didn't know that when you bought the thing, and without the context of why you bought it, you're just like, wow, you made a dumb choice and bought a stupid car, and now you had to pay all this money into it,
I'm gonna raise my hand and say two things. Number one,
at the same time.
Number one, I apologize to anybody that I have ever just jumped the gun. I used to just answer right away, gravity forms or this, and for me, that is the answer. I do everything through Gravity Forms or through EDD, but like there's a lot. I feel bad that there might be people out there that, hey, Russ said this, now they're into this plugin with 5 add-ons, and like it probably might have not been the best suggestion. So first of all, I want to apologize to people out there and say, like, do a little bit of research, make a backup before you take anyone's advice, but also at the same time, like you don't know, you never will know. As as this pandemic has shown us, businesses thought they were doing this, now they're switching to this. And it just goes to show you that, like, I cannot cover every aspect of what you need your printing t-shirt business to do, but like I can help you rebuild to get it back online. Like I just don't have a crystal ball.
You've learned what Steve and I have been espousing for the past 300 and however many episodes, which is the answer to every question is it depends. Yeah. And then a lot more follow-up questions after that, because there is no one-size-fits-all answer for any of this other than don't write the entire website in the functions file.
I'm going to say ACF Pro is pretty close.
Anyway, what were you going to say?
So, I mean, take somebody who years ago, they're like, man, I got to get an e-commerce site going. So they hitch their wagon to Jigo Shop.
Did that. Cart 66 was the other one.
Right. Okay. So my old roommate, a very dear friend of mine, Jeremy Kitchen. I'm going to let him know I'm shouting him out. He's not much of a WordPress guy. He's more of a sysadmin. But he, when we first moved in together, had just hitched his wagon to a little format called HD DVD.
Wow.
And he bought a bunch of HD DVD DVDs. And basically,
say that 10 times fast.
See, and that's I had to slow down.
That the one that won? Is that like the Blu-ray, blue disc?
Right. That was the competitor to Blu-ray. That was the Betamax to VHS.
Got it.
And he had 20, 30 some odd HD DVDs. And even as the format was dying out, he's like, man, I hitched my wagon to this thing. I bought my dad an HD DVD player. So he's just like, I will have to buy as many, because he's been so hooked in to HD DVD. I remember him going to Fry's, and that's a chain here in the Western United States, and would buy their clearance HD DVDs just so he would have enough.
He's building his own Netflix.
Yeah, he wanted enough content to make this expensive purchase
worth it. It's like a record collection.
And I mean, he's just right in. No, okay, see, I have a record collection and
I have a bookshelf.
Yeah, exactly.
One or two. A couple. That's not it.
The record collection, at least they're still making record players. You cannot
It's a standard. It's a standard.
Yeah. You can't buy another brand new HD DVD player. They don't exist.
Yeah. Did you actually build
neither does Jigo Shop. So
like if you had to, you'd build your own record player, because if you had to, you could run a forked version of WordPress that kept it in that world forever if you had to do that, right? So that's kind of the equivalent of a record player, because in theory, the record holds the data, so you could get the app. It's not that complicated of an apparatus to construct. I mean, I can't construct one, but to construct a record player, you could do it again if this was, say, the apocalypse or The Last of Us, and you had to have rebuild a record player versus trying to build your own HD DVD player, which you're not going to be able to do.
It sounds like you're talking about. It sounds like you're talking about classic press people now, Stay, and I respect that.
Oh man!
I guess they're kind of doing that. Is that still a thing? Are they still doing that?
I don't know if Classic Press is still around.
So quick, someone to the Google. We're all like, the niche. Anyway, yeah. So that's a different form of technical debt. I guess we're done. This is like the end of the show.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
I enjoyed having this discussion. I think it's good for people to understand what it is that they're having to deal with when they're handing over their website to a new developer, or if they're a developer who is inheriting a website, now they have to deal with it. So thanks for the show. Yeah,
Make a backup.
Document.
Here we go. You can go help us out over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. And this is where Jason Cosper gets to shine yet again. His name shows up on a screen. And if your name wants to be on the screen, you should put it on there too. You can subscribe to us as on YouTube, and you can also hit the little bell. We'd really appreciate it. And lastly, this is where you can find all of us on all the different places as a podcast. We're not just a YouTube show, but we're also a podcast and audio format. So feel free to go find us at all the great places that you can find a podcast. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.